Have you ever wondered what really goes on behind the scenes in professional consulting? It's way more than just someone sharing their opinion. There's a structured, rigorous process for turning these really complex problems into clear, defensible judgments. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and demystify the exact workflow they use right here in the Philippines.
And this question really gets to the heart of it all. What is the one thing that separates professional advice, the kind a company can literally bet its future on, from just, a simple opinion? Well, the difference isn't the person giving it, it's the process behind it.
So here's our roadmap for this little explainer. We're going to start with the foundation, the pillars of the whole thing. Then we'll walk through 5 key steps: the handshake, the blueprint, the investigation, and then the grand finale, the judgment, where it all comes together. So let's get started with that foundation.
Okay, so before any work even begins, the entire process has to rest on these 4 non-negotiable pillars. We're talking about ethics, transparency, accountability, and a judgment that is totally defensible. And this applies to every single project. Doesn't matter if it's a private company or a government engagement under the procurement law RA 9184. This foundation is what ensures the final advice isn't just smart, but it's completely trustworthy.
So how does this all actually work in practice? Well, the whole thing unfolds over 5 distinct phases. It starts with accepting the engagement, then moves to defining the scope, gathering all the data, forming the actual advice, and finally reporting it. Let's dive right into phase 1.
All right, step 1. We're calling it the handshake. Now, this is so much more than a simple greeting. This is the formal go or no-go decision for the entire project. This is where the consultant has to be incredibly rigorous and decide if they can, and maybe more importantly, if they should, even take on the work.
The purpose at this stage is singular and absolutely crucial: to meticulously vet the potential project. This is not about winning business at any cost. No way. It's all about protecting their professional integrity and making sure it's the right fit before a single minute of work begins.
And that due diligence, it is comprehensive. The consultant checks the client's legitimacy and performs a super rigorous conflict of interest review. They have to ask themselves, do we actually have the right team and the skills for this? They evaluate all the potential risks, legal, financial, and reputational, long before anyone even starts talking about fees. All of that tough initial work leads to one critical document: a signed letter of engagement, or LOE, or a service contract. You can think of this as the official starting pistol for the race. It formalizes the relationship, and it confirms that all those essential checks and balances are done. Okay, next up is step 2, the blueprint. Now that the engagement's been accepted, it is time to draw the map. This phase is all about creating a clear, foundational plan for the entire project.
And here's why this step is so important. It's designed to protect both the client and the consultant. By setting these crystal clear boundaries, you prevent what's known as scope creep, that infamous problem where a project just slowly grows into an unmanageable monster. It's all about defining liabilities and managing expectations from day one. So, what goes into building this blueprint? Well, a few key things. You define the exact objectives. You state precisely what's included in the scope, and just as importantly, you list what is excluded. You also have to list all your assumptions, like, we assume the client will cooperate. And you acknowledge any limitations, like tight deadlines or needing to rely on third-party data. The results here, the tangible outputs, become the project's official guidebooks, a detailed scope matrix, and a formal assumptions and limitations statement. Believe me, these documents get referenced constantly to keep the whole project right on track.
With the blueprint in hand, we can now move to step 3, the investigation. This is where the deep dive, the evidence-gathering work, really kicks off. It's the core analytical engine of the whole engagement.
The objective here is simple, but it is profound: to make sure that every single recommendation that comes later is built on a solid foundation of hard evidence, not on guesswork or some gut feeling. This is the fact-finding mission that separates real professional judgment from just a hunch.
So to build that evidence base, consultants use a mix of methods. On the qualitative side, you've got things like key informant interviews, or KIIs, with experts and focus group discussions, which are called FGDs. On the quantitative side, you've got the hard numbers, from surveys, financial analysis, market data. A great consultant knows exactly how to blend both of these to see the full picture.
And what comes out of all that digging? The raw materials for judgment. Now, these aren't the final report itself, but they are the crucial building blocks. organized working papers, validated data sets, and the analytical tables that start to reveal the story that's hidden inside all that data.
And now we arrive at the culmination of the whole process, steps 4 and 5, which together we can call the judgment. This is where all of that raw data and analysis gets transformed into clear, actionable advice.
Now, it's really important to see these as two distinct but connected goals. Step 4, that's the internal process of synthesis. It's that moment of judgment where the consultant translates all their analysis into a conclusion. Step 5 is the external process. It's about carefully packaging that judgment so the client can understand it and, most importantly, act on it.
So how does this judgment actually take shape? First, they synthesize all the findings. They often develop alternative scenarios, like a good, better, and best option, and then assess the feasibility and risks of each one. After that, they draft a punchy executive summary and brief leadership on what it all means, even before the final report is delivered.
And finally, we get to the primary output that everyone has been working towards, the final consulting report and the presentation deck that goes with it. This is it, the complete, defensible, and actionable advice that the client paid for, built on the back of the entire structured process we just walked through.
So after walking through all those steps, let's just zoom out for a second. This entire workflow, it's designed to produce something far more valuable than just a document. It's really about delivering two things: clarity and confidence.
This chart gives us a perfect bird's-eye view of the whole journey. We started with initiation. That's all the vetting that leads to a signed contract. Then we moved to planning to create the work plan. The execution phase, that's what generated the working papers. Synthesis is where the judgment was formed. And finally, closure is what delivered the final report. As you can see, every single phase has a distinct purpose and a clear deliverable.
If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Professional consulting isn't about producing paper reports. It's about a disciplined process that transforms data into defensible judgment, and that judgment into credible, actionable advice. The report, that's just the vehicle. The real product is clarity.